In this Skillshare class, I'm going to show you how you can start a YouTube channel. I currently run multiple different YouTube channels, and in total, I have gained over 24,000 subscribers and 4 million views across all of my videos. Within the following lessons, I'm going to break down my YouTube strategy and take you behind the scenes into my YouTube analytics, explaining to you why my most popular videos were so successful, along with the effective techniques and strategies that I have used as a growing YouTuber. I will also share some of the mistakes that I made as a smaller YouTuber that you should definitely avoid. If you're looking for up-to-date and relevant information about the YouTube platform and how to understand the YouTube algorithm, then join me here for this Skillshare class to learn how to start and grow your very own YouTube channel. When starting your very own YouTube channel, you need to understand what category of videos you're actually going to create, and this is referred to as choosing a niche. At the moment on YouTube, I currently have 3 different YouTube channels. I have Ben Rowland's Music, and something that I tried out over the Christmas period, which was Ben Rowland's Gaming. Traditionally, people start a YouTube channel with the intention to grow that one platform as large as possible. So for example, if I had just started Ben Rowland's as a single channel and then uploaded whatever I liked onto there, obviously that would amass the largest amount of subscriptions. But the problem that you face with this is that you dilute your audience. So if everybody subscribed to Ben Rowland's Music and on there I did everything such as tech, music videos, music gear reviews, as well as all the other type of stuff I like to make, YouTube would have no clear demographics of what this YouTube channel is actually about, because there'd be a variety of different age groups watching this channel, and not all of the subscribers would be engaged in my iPad reviews because they subscribe to watch me play the guitar. So I personally am a strong believer in having multiple different channels that niche down into different categories of topics that you wish to talk about. So for example, my second channel, Ben Rowland's, which has now actually become my primary focus, is a tech-based channel. This is pretty evident by the banner that is placed on this channel, but also all of the content that I do. It's smartphone reviews, Xboxes, TVs, as well as primarily Apple, which is my sort of flagship content. In contrast, if we then compare this to my music channel, you can see all of the content has nothing to do with what I talk about on tech. It's amplifiers, guitar pedals, and also music production software. And then this is all reflected in my demographics. People that watch my tech reviews seem to be much younger, around 20 to 35, and then people that watch my music content are much older, 45 plus, and more into the 50s. So if I were to try and cram all of the content onto the exact same channel, I could not appeal to a 25-year-old the same as I could to a 50-year-old. So I need to have different channels to cater towards the different types of audiences. I'm not advising that you go out and start multiple different YouTube channels, because trust me, it's a huge amount of work and it's very exhausting. But what I'm trying to highlight is how important it is by niching down onto a particular topic to efficiently and effectively quickly grow that YouTube channel. Both of these channels prove that if you choose a niche and stick to it, you can effectively grow that channel much faster than if you had a scattergun approach with the content and you made a video on pretty much whatever you liked. And this is proof because my Ben Rowland's channel is only around 5 months old, and there's some videos on this channel that have over 500,000 views. You can see this video here is almost at 500,000 views, 300,000 views in 4 months, and then 150,000 views in just 6 months. And when you look at these top 4 best performing videos, there's a clear link between all the content. iPad content, iPad content, iPad content, more Apple content as well, and then also Xbox content over here, which links into sort of gaming as well. But there's something very important to be aware of when choosing your niche, and that is audience size. And I learned this with my music channel. I went ahead and created almost 270 videos on my music channel. And this has resulted in around 15,000 subscribers. Whereas on my tech channel, I've only created around 70 videos, and this has resulted in around 7,000 subscribers. The key difference is I started this music channel in 2020 and I started this tech channel in May, June of 2021. Initially, you wouldn't think the choice of your niche would be too significant because you think there's plenty of subscribers out there to grow your channel. You want 100,000 subscribers, 1 million subscribers. Surely there's enough people in the entire world that would want to watch this type of content. But the harsh reality is the audience you may be trying to target may not be large enough for you to even get 100,000 subscribers, and it's coming to terms with this determining factor. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't potentially make a very profitable YouTube channel by creating a business around the small amount of traffic you could achieve. Because the truth is, there's millions and millions of people that want to look at the latest iPhone every single year, but there's probably only a couple thousand people that want to watch a review on this guitar pedal. And this is reflected for me personally in the numbers. In October, my tech channel almost brought in 500,000 views in a single month, whereas my music channel with far more content only brought in 100,000 views. So that data there proves no matter how great the content is you're creating, you need to be mentally aware of the cap of the people you may be able to reach. And my music channel is proof of this. I create equally as high content as on my tech channel, but I niche down onto this particular brand called Boss, and more specifically, their little red loop pedals. And they have about 5-6 different loop pedals in this particular range. And collectively, that entire range for Boss has sold around 1 million units worldwide. But the keyword there is worldwide. So you then have to factor in the language barrier. I'm making these tutorials in English, so people that don't speak English can't watch these YouTube videos, or with obviously the subtitles on. So then that means the actual audience size is even smaller. There's not 1 million people that could watch these tutorials. It's probably more like a couple 100,000. And the fact that I've managed to capture 15,000 people in an audience size that realistically could be around 100 to 150,000 people is around a 10% conversion rate, which is already pretty high and potentially capping out on this channel's potential unless I do some drastic changes. So being aware from the very beginning of the potential audience size that you're trying to capture within that niche is super important. But it doesn't matter if you can't get millions and millions of subscribers, because if you intend to take these people to different traffic sources, such as a website, and try and divert them elsewhere to build some form of consulting business or whatever it is, sell products to them, then it doesn't really matter, because you could dominate a really small niche and still create quite a good YouTube business. And sometimes it's virtually impossible for a brand new YouTuber to try and compete in the larger spaces. For example, my tech channel, I never anticipated that to be as successful as it was due to how saturated and competitive that space is. But because I just know so much about the platform, I managed to find a way to position that content so it did work correctly. But if it wasn't for starting my music channel first and running that for about a year, I wouldn't have stood a chance at doing a successful tech channel. Next, let's talk about what makes a YouTube video successful. There's a few different factors that contribute to a video's success for both bringing in views, but also converting subscribers. I'm sure you've maybe heard of some of these metrics before, but I want to dive into them further and how you can actually use them as tools to improve your content. The first most important one is obviously the CTR, which is the click-through rate of your video. So you've got your click-through rate. This is how many people, the percentage of people that click onto your video when it is displayed to them on the YouTube platform when they are browsing. The next metric is watch time and also watch retention. Both of these are very similar metrics, but work slightly differently. Watch time is the actual minutes and seconds that the average view duration was, and then the watch retention is the percentage viewed. So it might be 30% of people watch this video on average, or 60% video completion rate was the average. Both of these are kind of similar metrics, but work differently depending on the length of the video. So let's dive into these two metrics further. We've got two different videos here, one from my tech channel and a second one from my music channel. Now, the key thing is, take a look at over here. We've got the average length of the video, which was 13 minutes and 2 seconds on the music channel. And then this one on my tech channel was only 4 minutes and around 14 seconds. Both of these videos have been successful. The music channel one has amassed around 65,000, 70,000 views, and the tech channel one is just a couple of weeks old, and it's already at around 15,000 views. The first thing I want to focus on is the watch retention. You can see this one on the tech channel has got a 55.3% watch retention, which isn't too terrible. That's actually quite difficult to achieve. And you can see when you look at this little line over here, this is the viewing trends and the habits of the viewers on average while they watch these videos. You can see they maybe got a little bit bored in this particular section, so they skipped a bit, and then they skipped a little bit through here with these little bumps, or they could have also rewound because there was something that was particularly interesting. Traditionally, any YouTube video has a huge drop-off within the first couple of seconds of the video, just because they autoplay when people scroll on mobile, so that's pretty difficult to avoid. But on average, this is the typical view for my channel. You can see by this gray line, it's not too bad performing video. In contrast, if we compare this to the music channel, you can see that there is a much less consistent viewership across the video. There's an average view duration of around 37%, 40% if we rounded that up, which isn't that bad for a video that is 13 minutes long. You have to consider the different length in these videos and the amount of attention that would demand from a viewer. But you would initially assume that this video would be less successful because it has such a low watch retention percentage in comparison to the video we just compared it to, and also the line is so inconsistent. And this is because people are hopping between the different chapters that I have placed within this video, so they're hopping between to see what product that they want to talk about. Sometimes that obviously is detrimental to a video performance, but I think it has its benefits. Now, when it comes to the average view duration, this is obviously basing it off of how long the video is that you have uploaded. So we've uploaded a 13-minute video, and on average, people watched about 5 minutes of that 13-minute video, whereas with this 4-minute video, on average, people watched around 2 minutes and 20 seconds of this video. Now, the metric I prefer to focus on is the watch percentage, because you can actually control this metric whenever you create your next upload, because you can set a particular target that you want to hit to ensure you can create the most engaging and interesting content possible. Whereas with the watch time, it's going to be different every single time, because you might upload a 4-minute video or you might upload a 25-minute video. So you would get something like 10 minutes average watch time on that video. So you're going to be uploading different length videos every single time. So it's hard to target a particular metric that you want to achieve for that. So for that particular reason, this is the one that you can sort of set targets for to help you improve your content. And by improving this, it will inevitably increase this metric anyways when you make your content. Now, some YouTubers say that the higher watch time you can get, forgetting about this, the higher watch time you can get, the better the video will perform, because you're keeping people on YouTube for longer. So if you uploaded a 25-minute video, obviously that would equal a much higher watch time than a 4-minute video, because you would get people to watch for, I don't know, like maybe 10 minutes compared to me that's getting people to watch for 2 minutes. So YouTube would be more likely to promote this video versus this video. That's something that people say. I personally disagree with that, because it's about how engaging that content is for how long somebody's watching. But dive into that if that's something that you think may be of interest. The next most important metric is the click-through rate, which, as we referred to earlier, we call it the CTR. This is how many people, the percentage of people that have clicked onto the video to watch it. You can see this Samsung phone review has been shown to around 75,000 people. In the impressions, YouTube has presented this video to 75,000 people. And obviously, it's virtually impossible to get all 75,000 people to click onto that content. You know, that's something that is just unrealistic. You may be surprised to hear that 10% is actually quite difficult to achieve, and it should be the benchmark that you target for to ensure that your content is being successful. You can see that this click-through rate does fluctuate. On some days, it's almost been 12%, 10%, all the way down to 7%. And a few factors dictate the click-through rate, how much YouTube is pushing the content out on that particular day, but also if YouTube is testing a new audience. So for example, my video had a 12% click-through rate, which meant YouTube was testing that with an audience that was super interested in Samsung phones. But a few days later, because that was successful, it obviously tried to show it to maybe some iPhone users or people that use Google phones. And YouTube was trying to push the envelope of people interested in this content over this couple of day period. And as you can see, these people weren't as interested because they may prefer Apple and don't really care about Samsung. So YouTube changed its mind and started to push it out to more people like these ones earlier, and the click-through rate rose back flew. So sometimes your click-through rate will drop because YouTube's just trying it with new people that it may think is interested in what you're doing. A pretty simple thing that you can't really control too much. Something you should know, though, is that this isn't the most accurate click-through rate of your actual video. And if you go into advanced mode over here and you go to traffic sources and you scroll down, this will actually give you the more important click-through rates that you need to be aware of. What this page shows is all of the different traffic sources on YouTube. You've got the ones you're probably aware of, such as YouTube search, the browse feature, which is kind of the YouTube homepage, notifications, which is your subscribers getting the notifications on their phone, suggested videos, which is often at the end of videos or on the sidebars, and other things as well, external, people sharing it on blogs, whatever. Now, the most important ones to focus on is YouTube search and also browse. It's suggested video as well, but that's quite a hard one to attain. You can see here that this video in browse is actually getting a 12.2% click-through rate, which is exceptionally high and also very high for browse because of how competitive it is to get a shelf, to get the video onto that particular shelf. YouTube search, it's also bringing in a 9.8% average click-through rate. So again, it's performing very well in search, which will dictate how high this will appear in the search rankings. So when people are searching for a Samsung Fold 3 or whatever the phone was review, I will be appearing quite high in those search results now because of how good the click-through rate is. Whereas if this click-through rate was something like 2.3%, which believe me, I've had videos that have done that before, it will basically do nothing and YouTube will never show it to anybody. There's two things to consider when it comes to increasing your click-through rate. The first one is creating effective thumbnails that, obviously look good, attract the eye, but aren't too clickbait and over-promising on what the video is actually about. And then in combination with this, you need to have an effective title. A rule of thumb, if you're trying to go for browse, sort of views, browsing suggested. Try and keep your title within sort of 55 characters. That way it will display the entire title when somebody's watching on an iPhone or a smartphone device and tablet. The second option is to create a great thumbnail, but obviously go down the search optimization approach. And that way you can create as long as a title as you like and just ram it with different keywords that are appropriate to the topic of the video. If you want to go slow and steady, this is the route to go. If you want to have a more high-risk strategy that tries to push your videos out but doesn't guarantee they'll be successful and they may potentially completely flop, then this is obviously the route to go. And my tech channel is an example of this high-risk reward type strategy. I try and target the browse feature with this channel to try and push it out and get it to grow as fast as possible, but sometimes the videos just completely flop and I spend like 12, 14 hours trying to make a crazy awesome video and then it gets about 500 views. But that's the risk you got to take, because on the flip side, sometimes I pull it off and they bring in 500,000 views, 300,000 views, 100,000 views, and it kind of works. Let's move on and discuss the creation process of a YouTube video. Before you go ahead, click record, start talking to the camera, it's very important that you do a few different things. This here is an example of a content calendar planner. This is something that I've created every single year when I go ahead and plan my content for the month and for the year. This is one from 2020, and you can see the level of consistency that's required for growing a YouTube channel. Bear in mind, I had like 100 subscribers, no subscribers when I started in January 2020, and I completed the entire year without missing a single upload, sometimes even doing daily videos, and you can see the level of focus that was happening throughout this entire year. I've continued to do this every single year, and obviously it's matured with different approaches and the amount of channels I now run, but this is very important to make sure you're creating the correct amount of content, because one, you can plan out your entire week or the next 3 weeks and see how all of that content links together. And then before you even go ahead and film this content, you want to plan out the videos before you click record, because this will allow you to create an effective roadmap for your potential subscribers and viewers to sort of navigate your channel. So there are a couple of different approaches you can make to planning a YouTube video. The first way is completely scripting it, so you can script out the video, or you can just create sort of an outline. I do a hybrid approach depending on the type of content that I'm trying to create. Now, I already have a complete Skillshare class that shows you how to write the perfect YouTube script. And this goes fully in depth and behind the scenes into me writing a script from the very beginning and the approach that you should take. So I highly recommend checking out this class when you are ready to do this step within your YouTube channel. But for now, let's compare the differences between scripting and outlining a video and when and where you should use each technique. For me, scripting a video from scratch takes a huge amount of time. Sometimes I could write a script for my tech channel and it takes anything from 6 to 7 hours just to write the perfect script that's short, sharp, to the point, without any mistakes. But the problem I found with this was that it was impacting the consistency that I could have on my tech channel, because I was spending so much time sat there typing stuff in Google Docs. I wasn't actually creating the videos and pushing them out, because tech is such a fast-moving platform. You need to just get the content out kind of as quick as possible while it's relevant for that year that product's out, or even just a couple of weeks before people want to talk about the next leaks and rumors of the next iPhone or whatever. It's important just to create the video that's best as possible in that time period. But what I found from analyzing this process was that my content, truthfully, was only maybe 5% better at a maximum from spending those 6 to 7 hours. And when I looked at it, these 6 to 7 hours was another maybe 2 videos that I could create from the beginning, both from filming, B-roll, and also editing that entire video if I worked very productively. But there are some advantages from writing the script. The first one is if you aren't that confident at talking to the camera, you don't feel that comfortable, you can't really free flow or improvise that naturally, then a script is obviously the route to go until you start to build up that conviction when talking to the camera. So if you're the type of person that I just described, it might be useful to sort of script out word for word your sort of maybe first 3 to 4 videos to sort of get yourself into the workflow and understand a structure of how you should lay out those videos, like intro, middle section, problem with the product, all these different factors. So then you can figure out sort of a recipe that works for your content. And then once you've worked that out, you don't need to write the scripts anymore, because you can then start to just create outlines that take about 20, 30 minutes to sort of produce and get straight to making the video. Currently, the only time that I still write a script word for word from the very beginning is if I'm reviewing a product that I'm really going to give a hard time. I've maybe reviewed a phone, it's awful, the performance isn't very good, some of the features are not that great. I will write a script word for word to ensure I don't make any mistakes. That way, it reduces the chance of somebody writing in the comment section that I was wrong, don't listen to this person, he has no idea, and it just makes sure I keep that authority there when I'm discussing particular topics. But more commonly now, I use the outline approach. And this was the approach that I took with my music channel from the very beginning. I changed it when I went into tech, but I went back to this approach because it's super fast. You go ahead and you just write out the sections of your video, so your intro, and then maybe a few bullet points. What are you going to say within that intro to capture somebody really quick? And then you move on to the sort of, some problems you maybe had with the product. And then you just go ahead, write out your different categories, a few bullet points, and then that way you create a quick outline of the video and you can start filming it and turning it around very fast. This is also very useful if you create news-based stuff. So you've maybe watched, for example, an Apple event or some form of gaming event, and you want to make some news on what was announced at that conference. This is the approach to take. Just write your bullet points, the stats, products that are coming out, then you can turn that video around super quick and try and get on that trending topic. If you want to see some proof from my personal experience of me outlining videos versus scripting them, obviously this was my 2020 content calendar and the consistency was absolute perfection without any flaws. Whereas if we switch over to 2021, my consistency was much less. Obviously I was running 2 different channels. I had a lot on my plate, but you can see the consistency wasn't that bad at the start of the year. I was trying a few different upload strategies. I was still outlining my videos during this period, but then I started to script them from May. And you can see how many gaps started to appear within the weeks while I was uploading my videos. And then this iPad mini review in September was when I went back to never writing any scripts. I just did everything sort of on the go. There was the odd script now and again, but all of this was outlined, especially during this October period, all the way through to December. And I think the amount of uploads I managed to achieve during this holiday period just kind of shows the difference in the amount of time it took to write those scripts. One final thing that I must mention before you go ahead and film your video is you need to decide on the title and have a bit of an idea of the thumbnail. Just sort of imagine it in your head. What would it look like in combination with these two? That way you can position the angle you're going to take with your outline or your script all based off of this title. Is it going to be a positive review or is it going to be negative? Is there anything that you need to sort of mention to make it coincide with maybe a more clickbaity type title if you're going down that approach? This is very important. And then that way, this will just dictate the entire approach to the whole filming, what type of product shots you get, and what you need to highlight when you inevitably go and record and then edit it. So this is probably, out of everything I mentioned, the first thing you should consider. Let's move on and talk about the process of filming your very first YouTube video. I advise you allocate sort of an entire day to doing this. This will release the pressure that is already high on you. You're probably already feeling a lot of pressure about getting in front of the camera. You don't know how good you're going to be, how many mistakes you're going to make. So allocating a significant amount of time means you have plenty of time to achieve this task you've never done before. There's a few sort of protocol steps that I recommend following for creating this video, and then I'll move on and talk about how long it takes me to now make a video after making almost 350 YouTube videos at this point. So you want to first, as we said, allocate a full day to this very first process. Then you want to go ahead and you want to make sure that you have your camera completely charged. You want to fully charge all of your batteries before you start. So the day before, make sure everything's ready to rock so you're not wasting time. I also advise, potentially if you can, to purchase additional batteries. So have between 1 to 3 batteries, because if you have something like a Canon M50 or a mirrorless camera from Sony, the battery life on those cameras aren't the greatest. So it means you could be filming, getting in the flow, finally starting to do a good job, then the camera runs out of battery and you gotta wait an hour or so before you can pick things back up. I remember very well filming my very first YouTube video. I was 19 years old, I'm now obviously 21 filming this video today, but it was a very enjoyable and new experience. And I knew from that moment then that I wanted to continue doing this and building out multiple channels and doing all this online content creation. If you compare Ben Rowlands back then compared to Ben Rowlands you're watching today, it's a complete transformation. My ability to present to the camera and the confidence on the camera is much greater. And it is important that this is a skill that you develop through time. Even though my very first YouTube video is nowhere near the quality of what I can produce right now, it has still been quite successful on my channel, and it has amassed around 20 to 25,000 views, and every single day it continues to bring in new viewers and subscribers to the channel because it's relevant evergreen content. You then want to go ahead and check your audio levels on your camera. This is the biggest mistake that you could make, and trust me, I still make it sometimes today. You want to check your audio levels before you go ahead and spend an hour or whatever filming your video, because the worst thing you could do is have white noise, hissing, or over distorted audio when you're talking into the camera. Even though video and visual is important, filming in HD, 4K, all these buzzwords, if your audio is awful, no one's going to watch the video. You could film in standard definition, but have the best audio, and people would rather watch that. There's studies online that prove audio is the most important part of video. So you want to make sure you set your levels on your camera, do a few tests, plug the SD card into your laptop, and then listen back to those, and make sure it is clean as you can possibly get it in that moment. The next thing I advise doing is switching your camera from auto into manual mode. Now, this may seem like a huge daunting step, but it's very important, and I think the benefits are definitely worth it. Using audio on your camera is perfectly fine if you are a vlogger and you're going between different rooms, in and out, different environments. Audio is going to make your life dead easy because it's just going to change the brightness, ISO, shutter speed automatically. But if you're filming in a stationary environment like this, a talking head video, manual is the way to go, because you have complete control over the ISO, shutter speed, and a variety of other things. I already have a complete class here on Skillshare that breaks down the basic camera settings that you need to know in order to create YouTube videos. And I highly recommend checking out that class next so you can get confident with your camera settings, frame rates, and all those different types of things. The next thing to understand is that editing is going to be your best friend when you are filming. So when you capture a video, obviously, I think a lot of people have this conception that you nail it in one take, and then you go ahead and just add your B-roll on top of the timeline where applicable, and then you go ahead and you can upload this to YouTube. When in reality, what happens is you click record, and you can record for as long as you like until you nail it. And then when you're editing your video, you can go ahead and chop it up, and then have your much shorter timeline that is the final video that gets uploaded to YouTube. So you can make mistakes all along the way here, and then just completely remove those in the final edit. And this brings us on to my current workflow when it comes to creating YouTube videos. So my current workflow is as follows. Bear in mind, I've probably filmed between like 350 plus videos on YouTube, forgetting all of the other videos I've created for online courses in that number as well. Currently, for me, using the outlining method for my script, it takes me around 20 minutes to 30 minutes to film the talking head segment of my footage. So talking head is this exact shot here, you know, like me talking to the camera, and I like to call this camera A. So camera A is completed in this time period. I will then go ahead and capture my B-roll, which is the most important part of my videos and how engaging they are on my tech channel. B-roll is the footage that you place on top of your camera A footage. So things like product shots, close-ups, just stuff that will help articulate your point that you're trying to make within the video. It may even be charts, graphs with data on, or a PowerPoint, whatever your style of content is. Another way to use B-roll is to hide mistakes within your presenting. So if I were to nail a sentence and then the second sentence was a bit jumbled and I messed it up, I could go ahead and place B-roll on top of that mistake and then connect the two clips together. So let's say you were filming and you nailed the very first sentence, but you followed that up with a mistake. You could go ahead and just cut part one of that sentence in your video editing software, then overlay that with a clip of B-roll. And then you could take the second attempt at the follow-up sentence that you nailed and just stick that together. And there you have a perfect sentence, and the person listening has no idea that underneath this, it has been healed with a cut. The next thing I do once I've completed the B-roll and also the camera A is I'll hop in to my video editing program. And this is where I will spend probably around an hour, maximum, around an hour doing a rough cut. So I'll take all of these clips from camera A, edit it like this, part one, part two, removing the mistakes, and then I will have a complete sort of YouTube video that how it's going to flow. And then from this point, I'll go back and film more B-roll for any shots that I may have missed or need to add because the ones I captured weren't too great because the autofocus was freaking out or whatever. So I'll go ahead and do a B-roll 2.0 to get my final clips, and then I'll hop back in and edit once again for a further couple of hours. Now, if I'm honest about how long it probably takes me to edit a YouTube video, I'm looking at anything between 4 to 6 hours, depending on length, complexity, because although it doesn't take me too long to get the edit down, it's adding all of the product shots, color grading all of those shots, and then also adding sound effects, background music, and little animations here and there to just increase the overall production quality. But all of those factors are sort of more advanced techniques that aren't essential to the bare bones of creating a YouTube video. And you could probably expect that it's going to take you ages, obviously, to create your first video and edit it because you've never done it and you don't have any form of a workflow for doing that. So don't be shocked that it maybe takes you a whole day to create your very first video. I do hope that you have enjoyed taking this Skillshare class. Don't forget to check out the range of other YouTube courses that I have available that break down all of the essential skills that you need in order to run a successful YouTube channel. For the class project, I highly recommend referencing one of our earlier videos where we discussed choosing a niche and also understanding your market size. I will provide links within the learning resources to some YouTube tools that I use when undergoing this process of researching a topic and expanding into new niches. But as always, I've been Ben Rowlands. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're following me here on Skillshare for future classes just like this, and I will see you in the next one.